Yes, that just snuck up on me. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Full Course Yellow. Yes, I was playing around with all of the settings, and suddenly I popped up. So, how are you? Welcome to another edition of the get together. It's not a show as such; it's just a get together of a few friends on Thursday night, and we talk all things motor racing. So, hope you will join us. We'll bring up the roll call in just a moment. But I'll just let Doc in. Doc has just arrived. Here he is. Apparently, he won't retire if they force. I will happily retire. Anybody, I don't need to be forced. Anybody want me to retire? I'm more than happy. You just got to make it financially viable for me. Anyway, welcome to everybody. Got a few things to talk about tonight. Yes, Paul. Yes, well, I've got that listed for to start the program off. So in fact, we'll do that. We will do that right now. Actually, it's been a fairly tragic week once again. A fairly sad start to the show, and we start off with the news that long-time Victorian Fire and Rescue Squad member, one of the founding members, and a senior member for many years, Bob King, has passed away. Bob has been involved in the Vic Fire and Rescue going way back. Not sure, perhaps even to the days of Women for Wheels. I'm not sure whether he went back that long, but he has been there an awful long time. Very, very popular, and has given great service to Australian and local motorsport here in Victoria over the many years. So to members of the Victorian Fire and Rescue Squad, and to the family of officials and all of Bob's family, of course, our condolences on the passing of Bob King. So very, very sad news came out a little bit earlier in the week. Also earlier in the week.
And Tony Seymour as well too.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that. Also, so we've had Stephen Schmidt, local competitor, raced in. He was in fact competing last weekend at Bryant Park at the Victorian Hill Climb Championship, and was fine. Went home and apparently died suddenly and unexpectedly earlier in the week as well, and that was a huge shock to the local historic touring car fraternity and people involved in local club level motorsport. He raced, as I said, a Cooper S at Bryant Park, but also in the past had raced things like Bug-Eyed Sprites and a few other cars, Fiat, I think, a few other cars as well. So to the family of Stephen Schmidt, once again, our condolences and very disappointing. And as Doc mentioned, we've had, unfortunately, another tragedy in Targa, Tasmania, and it was announced today that Tony Seymour, a Queensland-based competitor, driving a Lotus, was the driver that unfortunately died yesterday as a result of an accident in Targa, Tasmania. Now, the situation for Targa is that they have at this stage downgraded the event for the moment to a touring event. And so once just again, our condolences. His wife was alongside of him in the car. She was the co-driver and navigator. She was not thankfully not seriously injured, but obviously she would be a very sad, very very disappointing situation. So to the family and friends of Tony, we wish you condolences and all the very best. Okay, so well, we might as well start. There's probably a place to start with Targa, Tasmania, and in light of what's happened, I mean, we had a couple of fatalities last year, and obviously the incident involving Tony Seymour today or yesterday. What do you think is what's the future of these things? Because they had after last year they had a major investigation, and there were a number of recommendations which Motorsport Australia has implemented, and also the local authorities down there. The problem is, I mean, like as it says on the back of the ticket, motor racing is dangerous. It doesn't matter what level you're at, whether it's an event like Targa, Tasmania, or hill climb, or drag racing, or speedway. The moment you get behind the wheel of a car, you've got some problems. So.
You're only at the will of your talent, really, and a mechanical failure, and and really anyone can compete in any particular Targa or a lot of events because there are no restrictions, there are no license requirements.
Well, there are some license requirements.
In some events. I'm talking about the whole of motorsport. I'm talking about going out the road here and competing in your local gymkhana or something to a certain extent. There's scrutiny regarding the vehicle, but you can do come and try days down at Phillip Island or Sandown. Or I'm sure there's many other tracks throughout Australia and lots of other different categories. You can do a come and try day with no license or experience whatsoever, with a professional person sitting next to you, but you're still both at the mercy of whatever you're doing. So, as you just said back at the start, there are risks. So,
I've just popped that up. It's all because it's taking up his wiping out. It's wiping out Richard, and we got there. But I think it's worth pointing out because
we could just do our Richard and I just do our best. Do our best sticky knees.
But
It was the summers.
You can see Paul obviously worked in and would know. As I said, all of the flaggers, a lot of the people would have known Bob. And Paul sent me a message earlier in the week to say that he had passed away. So so nice words there from. Nice one. As Paul's saying, there are people out there who may well owe their life to Bob and the other people in the Victorian Fire and Rescue Squad, and it's a really tough job. I remember when the Keith Kalsilki thing happened out at Phillip Island with that Ascari, that sports car. The people who were involved in fighting that fire and trying to eventually successfully getting Keith out of the car, albeit with some fairly serious injuries. That really rattled a lot of people. They do an amazing job because it's not, when anything involving fire is not pleasant. So our hands up and congratulations to all those people involved because it's a tough job.
Going back to the question, do you have to make entry more stringent, more tougher?
Well, that is one of the things that was one of the recommendations for the main category, and apparently Tony Seymour's car was in the main category. It wasn't the Lotus Exige. It wasn't one of the quickest cars, but you've got. That's what some people have said, is that you've got cars running there now that are almost better than GT3 standard. Some of the Vipers and the Lamborghini Hurricanes and things like that are running in events like Targa. There's some seriously quick cars, and one of the recommendations was a super license. And Cam said to Michael Smith from Motorsport Australia said today that it was one of the things they were going to bring in, but at the moment they're just sort of figuring out, how to find the balance and basically how to test people, because you've got people, do you make it so that they've got to reach a certain standard on a racetrack before they can compete in that major category? I mean, Michael mentioned today, Grant Denya's sort of situation. That Grant obviously is an experienced race driver. He's raced a lot over the years on the circuit, and he races there, and he had a big crash in a Targa event some years ago as well. So it's a hard one.
Well, I think Peter Brock was pretty experienced too.
Yes, well, there you go.
Right.
So these things can, if it can happen to Brock, then clearly it can happen to anybody, and it's the nature of those events. I know that. I mean, when Melissa was alive, she competed in a number of them through various, being a journalist. A couple of car companies gave her, cars to compete in, or whether she drove or whether she was a co-driver. And I know that after the incident with Brocky, she said she went right off the whole idea, because she said, even at her level, she said there were so many near misses.
There's so many obstacles.
Yeah, I mean, there's no runoff. It's not a racetrack, that's the point.
Exactly. Yeah,
but then again, you've got to drive to the conditions as well. I mean, if you're going to go in there and throw the car in, and you've got to understand that yes, there are consequences, and if there are no consequences, then anybody could do it.
Mm-hmm.
So. I don't know what's going to happen, but anyway, let's as I said, the roll call has come up. We saw from Paul, box. Good day to Box as well, and Tony P once again joining us. Russell Clark is with us again, race fan, wherever you are, indeed. Mad Cow Mark is with us once again. Andrew is with us saying, yes, love the two Ferraris on Tuesday nights in pit lane. Yes, and wasn't Guido Belgiorno Nettis a nice guy? I mean, this is one of the richest, really one of the richest men around. The guy is a billionaire, and he's just just a lovely, really lovely guy, and absolutely a passionate Ferrari tragic, of course, and
he
beautiful
had
cars.
such a hard choice between the number 27 and 28, if my memory serves me correctly, wasn't he?
Well, as he said in the interview, I mean, they wanted him to drive the one with the they want him to drive the one with the more downforce, but he likes the one that's got less downforce because it's faster on the straights. And he just dominated, just ran away.
Did you mention what he also told us at the track on the just before the interview or affair, that at his discretion he could drive whatever car he wanted at any particular time? There wasn't a specific one he had to stick to. They said, your discretion, you just take whatever one you want out at the time. Doesn't really matter to us. That was just nice of the officials.
Yeah, although apparently they're fairly flexible, which is good, I suppose. When you're a billionaire, you can do that, because that's what he said. He got the second car because he was looking for spares for the first one. So it was just after an engine, and the whole car came up, and he went, "Yeah, why not? I'll buy that one." So it would be very nice to have that sort of funds.
His contacts were very foundation-ish over there, back over in Italy, though. Do you also play the part? I'm not sure if he said it in the interview as well too, when he said that they gave him the bit of a GT, the Grand Tour style, though, when he went over there. And when they came out to Australia, they valued his opinion immensely as well, though, too, on the cars. So he's got a fantastic relationship with Ferrari regarding not just those cars, but as an overall.
Ferrari
ambassador.
are very, very good. They've got a whole division set up basically for their historic Formula One and sports cars, and they maintain them. I mean, because they want the cars out on the track. Their philosophy is, we would like these cars were built to be on the track. We want them out on the track. Let's get them out on the track. But let's at the same time, we want to make sure that they're going to be presented properly and safely, and they're going to represent us well. And the fact, as he said, that his people, the team who prepare his car up in Sydney, have basically been given carte blanche by the Ferrari factory to sort of say, look, we'll just send you bits, and you guys know what you're doing. That's a huge tribute to their skills as well, because the cars, you could see from, just from us looking at it closely, and with the shots that we had on Tuesday night, and also the story's up on the YouTube channel if you haven't seen it. The cars were beautifully turned out, just immaculately prepared. So yes, Andrew, that was lovely to see those two cars out there.
Just something to keep an eye on, and I want to put, excuse me, switch the note a little bit about Targa Tasmania. I was looking at an article this week as well too. Hyundai doing some data gathering down there in Tasmania with their Genesis. What's it called again? I'll have to look it up. It's up here. A Genesis GV60 is the particular model it's called. It's an SUV, and it's an electronic vehicle, EV, I should say. So electric powered vehicle. So they get data, giving that a whirl down there would be interesting. Obviously, it'll be very quick over the first 100 meters or a couple of 100 meters, but I suppose.
Well, as I said, the manufacturers are really keen, have been really keen on it, because that's where Melissa would get the drives. I mean, there were a couple of things. There was the thing with Renault with I think a Clio Sport or a Megane Sport. There was something with Mercedes. Something with, I think, from memory, it might have been with Fiat as well. I think with an Arbath or something, with not a Targa Tasmania, but certainly one of the other rallies. I know that we did something, did a Targa here, because I sort of tootled along as as company sort of thing. So I didn't have any involvement in it, but I just sort of wandered along over the course of a few days and filmed a bit of it. And
also in the EV market as well, though, too, Chevrolet have spoken this week and said they're going to release in 2023 the E-Ray, not the Stingray. It's going to be called the E-Ray. So it's
Yeah, they've been talking about that for years. It was always the plan that this platform would eventually have an all electric, both a
2020.
hybrid and an all electric version.
So it's going to be a hybrid version in 2023. So it's going to be like 300 and something high horsepower, and the electric, the hybrid part, the electric generator part is going to be attached to the front axle. I think it's going to be the left or the right wheel, just one wheel, and it's going to literally put another extra 50 horsepower into the sting of it, so to speak, and it'll just be off its dial. V10 or V12, I think it still is. Yeah, no, there's no change to the engine very much. And then a couple of years later, it will be a full EV car as well. So yeah, keep your eye out for that down the track. I'm not sure if we're going to see America go down the path of Europe and UK and have a 2030 ban on combustion engine vehicles and only EV, but because, Detroit will have something to say about that in a big way. But
well, I think that might be one of the reasons why because we've seen that Chevrolet are going to turn up. They've applied for a Garage 56 entry for, of all things, a NASCAR to run at Le Mans. But the deal is, Le Mans has said that for Garage 56, it has to be either an electric car or a hybrid. They won't accept a NASCAR just in its current stock form. So it wouldn't surprise me that the reason they're doing that is that they will use that. They will put a hybrid, that particular hybrid system will probably be adapted and go into the NASCAR and run at Le Mans, and they'll use that to sort of promote the new model of the Corvette when they release it in Europe.
I just checked it up. Rather than going on memory, it is going to be the mid-mounted V8 they're sticking to, and it'll jump from 369 kilowatts, like I said. Sorry, a little bit more. It'll boom to 447 kilowatts. That's a fairly jump for just throwing a little electric, a few diodes and resistors on your wheel.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've seen, like, with the cars that are running in the World Endurance Championship for a while. I mean, both the Audi and the Porsche and now the Toyotas. The acceleration of those guys, when they had the three of them and they were running under the old LMP1 regulations, the acceleration, there was the round that they had at Silverstone a few years ago. If you get a chance it is online. I'm sure it's online on the WEC YouTube channel. If you get the opportunity to see that race where you had Mark Webber and in the Porsche and Earl Bamber and those guys in the Porsche, and then you had Audi were there and Toyota as well. It was that brief moment when all three of the major manufacturers were involved, and it was the racing was insane, and the acceleration of those cars out of some of the slower corners was just neck-snapping.
A quick hello. No one said, yeah, hello, Adam. Hello, Giuseppe. Good to see you guys. Thanks for joining us again tonight, or listening to us down the track on the podcast for everyone down there on Spotify and Apple, that sort of stuff when Brett uploads it. While we're going around the room, though, before we get into the big guns, because there's been a lot going on in Formula One and MotoGP and a lot of Australians involved in contentious little incidents. Cooking from the kitchen. What are you cooking over there, Mr. Richard? You're in the kitchen tonight, and how's the cars cooked? You need to unmute yourself as well, too.
I'm in the kitchen because it's about the only decent room in the house. I'm only living in two rooms.
The garage is full of cars and parts?
No, it's full of furniture.
Oh.
And because this house is up for sale, anyone want to buy a house in Ashburton?
Oh, you're in Ashburton at the moment.
Yes, okay. Ashburton in Melbourne, not in the lovely green rolling hills of Bullen.
Hence he's got decent internet for a change.
I don't have to aim a torch at a tower somewhere.
And your gas bottle won't run out as well there too either. It'll be mains.
Yeah.
In the kitchen there.
Okay, well let's move on and let's talk a bit of Formula One. Of course, racing at Imola on the weekend, and a win to a very dominant win in the end to Max Verstappen, and a tough weekend for his main opposition there in Charles Leclerc, who unfortunately sort of overdid it. Said he put his hand up and said, "Yeah, my fault. I pushed too hard and got a bit crazy and did the wrong thing, and was very lucky to have. Been able to go on and finish as high as I did. But I mean, it has spiced up the battle at the top of the championship a bit now after Max's early problems. So it's not a runaway win, but obviously the Tifosi were absolutely heartbroken. They were also both heartbroken and absolutely outraged when a young fellow called with an Italian name called Daniel Ricciardo ran into the back of Carlos Sainz. Yeah. Pete, what was your once again? Dan put his hand up and said, my fault. But what was your reading of it?
He actually ran into the side of him, but I saw on a bit of the footage he got a light tap from Valtteri Bottas at the back, and that put him out of shape. And that point of the track was greasy, so he was on the curb, and then that's when he hit Carlos Sainz. And yeah, by rights he should have got a penalty, but he didn't. And he did apologise, and he put his hand up and said he was at fault, which he was. Yeah.
Well, as Carlos said, afterwards, that the fact that he did apologise went over very well with the team at Ferrari. I mean, they just said it was a class act. They said, not everybody would have done it, and he was very quick to sort of at the end of the race jump out and go straight over to Ferrari and say, look, sorry guys, my fault. Really sorry for ruining your race, Carlos. And Carlos said that everybody really did appreciate, his show of sportsmanship, and they felt he was very genuine about it, which is good to see. I mean, you don't see a lot of that stuff in Formula One nowadays, and it's good to see Dan doing that stuff. But I mean, it absolutely destroyed Danny's race as well. I mean, he was running around at the back, obviously had some under tray damage, and we know how important that is at the moment. So he really couldn't make any headway through the field, and he was at the back of the field, keeping young Lewis Hamilton company. I mean, boy, it was a nightmare.
I won't retire.
Nightmare for Lewis, wasn't it?
Yeah, and Lewis, I think, needs to be very careful, because I think he's going to end up being the number 2 driver this season if he's not careful. Because
big call.
They're in the
my ego. I just hurt my ego. Sorry.
They're in the Constructors' Championship at this stage, and George is, getting podiums and being up.
I'm waiting for the message from Toto, Lewis. Pull aside. George is faster than you.
I thought it'd be a message from Guy if Toto was talking. Sorry, I'm just looking around the room.
And I was hoping.
Hold position, Lewis. Hold position.
Oh. Sorry, don't understand. Can't comprehend. You did. It's Sir Lewis, all right? Then make sure you say that before you give me any other. Oh God.
He'll be able to quit soon and jump into and concentrate on the football club that he's supposed to be
The big question
buying.
is he going to take his recent demise in stride and be classy about it, and not just take it in stride, I suppose, and be respectful as well, or will he be a sourpuss or try and make every excuse up under the sun? Is
that a rhetorical question? I think we know what the answer to that is.
So, because I mean, there's plenty of drivers up there at the top of the pinnacle of sports in the world, and they can be absolute gentlemen. Doesn't matter what circumstances they are, 99% of the time.
That was the other thing. They didn't allow DRS until about 35 laps into the race, so DRS should have been allowed earlier.
Yes, it was. That's what as Andrew was saying there in the comments, that it really should have been allowed early, and I really couldn't figure out why they were. I mean, even in the wet, they have allowed it. In the conditions weren't ridiculously wet, and the track was drying very quickly, and I thought they would have introduced DRS a hell of a lot earlier.
Well, it's usually only a lap or two after they the first couple switch across from the wet intermediates or the wets across back to the slicks, so like within a lap or two. So why would you extend it out further than when they've switched across to them?
I think there's a bit of sensitivity around last year, and and things. So I think they're being overly cautious.
Well, half
Speaking of
the race directors are out with COVID for this weekend.
yeah, I was going to say, could we see that Miami, the return of Michael Massey returns at Miami? I mean, what a story that would be, because at the moment we've got the
Snagglepuss exit stage left.
yeah, we've got
You remember that one? Doc, you're not that old.
I haven't got the cane to go with the neck and just pull. Unfortunately. Yes, I have. I've got one. Hang on, I'll do that.
He's going to get props now. I mean, that's like, quick while he's gone. Let's talk sense. Yes, Niels Wittich might miss the Miami Grand Prix because you need to test negative before you're allowed into the United States. And unfortunately, Eduardo Freitas, who is sort of the deputy, the guy he's sharing the deal with in the job sharing agreement, well, he's apparently tested positive as well. Interesting thing how the different way that people are looking at this at the moment. He will in fact be at Spa on that weekend for the World Endurance Championship in his regular gig there, and apparently it doesn't seem to be a problem, the fact that he's tested positive to COVID, and it's just like, yeah, okay, well, as soon as you get better, just come on in. And so Eduardo will be there, and it has been raised as someone, like, if they're looking for somebody with experience, like, who do we have who has, hang on, I know a guy who's was race director for over a year or more, so
part-time.
Yeah, I don't think under no circumstances will they have Michael Massey back. I think
if I were Michael Massey, I would have a spasm in my middle finger.
Did you? I was going to say this was courtesy of a broken leg. It comes in handy after a few years. Did you want to borrow it too, Pete, as well though too, so we can just go.
Go for it, Snagglepuss.
Yeah, exactly.
For those of you listening on the podcast, Doc is doing sight gags. Sight gags.
Hey, this is legit. This is a proper timber wooden cane, the proper one. When I had a broken leg, it came in extremely handy, and I recommend it anyway. When you get sick of the crutches, these are absolute. They're not just for elderly.
Well, there you go. Okay, so but yes, that's interesting. Mercedes turning up. They're saying they're hoping for some. They've made some not huge changes, but they're saying that they're hoping for some improvements on the new circuit at Miami. They think that track will probably suit them a lot more than what we've seen so far. So they're hoping things will be better. The interesting thing is Toto Wolff has already said that people are saying that the whole concept of that car is possibly flawed, and they're saying we might just have to almost write off this season already and start concentrating on making major changes as much as we're allowed to make within this year in order to have a competitive car again, because it looks like whatever the road they went down just doesn't seem to be working. And a lot of people say that they believe it's got something to do with those very narrow side pods. They're saying that I think it was Craig Scarborough was saying that there's a thought that because they don't have the reinforcement running the whole length of the car, that the floor is at the rear is flexing, and that's not helping the porpoising situation.
Yeah, but Ferrari are doing it as well too. Did we mention it? Was it on Tuesday night or was it last week when we said just give him last year's car? That'll shut him up. That'll shut him up. I
don't think they want anything to do with last year.
That's right. You commented as well with that too. But I don't know what the speed comparison would be, or if anyone's done any ghosting with last year's times of last year's car compared to this year. But if it's thereabouts, just let him have it. Just say, look, you can have last year's model if you want, and let George keep on racing his, and let's see you go head to head on that one.
Yeah, I think the other teams might have something, and the FIA might have something to say about that. In other Formula One news, interesting, Renault have come out and said that they're going to support Michael Andretti's bid for a Formula One licence. They said that they will vote for it, and they will get behind it, and they will supply him engines. That's interesting. Because Renault at the moment, Renault really do need another team, because at the moment they've only got Alpine there for their engines. So another team for Renault would be very good.
Will that be a whole new team, or will he be buying an existing?
The plan is that it would be a whole new team at this stage.
Based,
now we don't know what's going to happen
based,
with perhaps Haas or something like that, but Haas
would it be based in America?
I would doubt it will be based. Would be based in America. They really. I don't think they really could base it in America. They're just too far out of the loop.
Michael would be basing in Europe, would he?
Yeah, I would imagine so. It's like like in the days that Penske was running over there, and they were certainly based out of the UK, and I imagine that'd be the same scenario for Andretti. For Andretti as well, but it'll be interesting because there's some of the other teams, particularly Ferrari, of course, are jumping up and down and saying, no, we don't need another team, we don't want another team. Everything's very nice as it is at the moment, thank you very much. And it's bad enough that we've got to split all the profits, sort of 10 ways. We don't want another team coming in and taking a share of it as well.
Oh, put another cap on the budgets, and that'll allow everyone to do it to a certain extent, because they can't spend an extra few $1 million on their cupcake allocation for the weekend.
But with Bernie not there anymore, that Ferrari jumping up and down doesn't hold as much weight as it once used.
Good point, Pete. That's hit the nail right on the head. That's
well, it's the same across like
cupcake.
It's the same as with Europe in general. I mean, this is the culture shock. It's the same with Monaco. Like Monaco was just, but we are the jewel in the crown. We don't have to do anything. We can run things as we've run them for the past 25, 30, 50 years, whatever.
We make our own rules.
Yeah, because we are Monaco, and no one is going to leave Monaco. We are the jewel in the crown, and the Americans are going, hey, we don't care, buddy. So it's forcing Monaco to actually say, well, okay, we probably could make a few improvements here and there, and we might have to pay a little bit more for our race, because it's not the big deal as far as Liberty Media are concerned. They're more interested in getting more races in and around America now than they are in, and if they've got to probably get rid of a couple of races. So, why not Monaco? I mean, you can't pass there, especially with these current cars. They're huge.
All they're going to do is put the yacht docking fees up by $10,000 a berth, and I'm sure they'll have no problem at all covering that fee whatsoever.
Well, Miami's got its own docking area. It's got its own marina. The problem is
your own yacht club. Yep.
Yeah, the problem is it's actually in the car park. It's in the baseball stadium car park, and they've built like a giant pool there specifically just to put the yachts into, so that they can recreate the look and feel of Monaco. They're going to bring them in on great big trucks, load them in on cranes, fill the thing up with water. They won't go anywhere. They'll just sit there. People will pay a fortune to watch the race. Then they'll just bring the cranes in again and lift them out again.
I seem to remember somewhere very close to home doing that as well, and that worked really well.
Oh yeah, that's the old.
Albert Park.
Pete's on that note. He's just left us. Or the other one I remember as well too. We've got a big kangaroo we had at the Commonwealth Games up in Brisbane back in the 80s that we could ship over to them and they could roll around the place.
No, they need the kangaroo for the Olympics.
Albert Park did that one
for Melbourne in a few years. For regional Victoria, I should say.
Regional Victoria, yes. When the Commonwealth Games, we're all how desperately we're all looking forward to the Commonwealth Games coming.
Well, good luck finding accommodation because obviously there's a rental crisis here in Australia, let alone Victoria right now, and the worst part of it is in regional Victoria. So. Richard's going to pick up his house in Ashburton right now and put it out to Bull and just drop it in the field there, and you'll be able to you'll be able to get double a week for it out there, Richard.
Look, I'm trying not to encourage people to come out to the regional areas, and you're buggering it all up. I keep telling people it's terrible out here.
Oh, I bet you. And the alcohol is absolutely disgraceful as well, though. Too. It's having a nice boutique scotch with Richard's really harsh. It's still biting my throat right now. I'm still choking from it.
We haven't finished that single malt yet.
We will.
Hang on, that was well over a year ago. That was nearly 2 years ago that we were drinking that bottle.
We've all been stuck down with COVID.
Yeah. We've all had 20 lockdowns since and caught COVID 50 times as well too. So. Not that we know of.
If you want to see, the problem is the air has got to it now. I mean, it will be oxidising now, so it needs to be finished quickly, Richard. And if you need a hand, we are available at a moment's notice.
Good. I'm sure there's plenty of opportunity for intoxicated people in my area.
Speaking about intoxicated people in your area, some controversy has come up during the week. There was a post on Nyora Speedway, I think on the official page, about a complaint of the smokers that are in the area around there. And being a nice country venue, there's probably no real regulation on other than the same allowances that happen in the public wherever you go in the world, right? With Australia, in regional Victoria. So a couple of people said, I think they need to make some designated smoking areas for people to smoke in. And there was a massive amount of protests. I think I saw 60 or 70 comments on it when I had a quick look at it and got the popcorn out. And then it led on to the drinking issues as well, though, too, being a dry area too, and then there's wet areas and there's smoking, and then there should be a vaping area as well, though, too. And it just got really messy without the alcohol or the smoking. So
what about the sexist area and the chauvinist area and
I'll be careful where I go there. I think I might just stop my thought process there.
It could be like the Nürburgring 24 hours where they've got, they actually have, intense. They actually have brothels, in tents just dotted around the
red light area.
Dotted around the Nordschleife. They had that for years.
And there'll be a blue light area too, followed after that as well, though, too. And
I think the thing is, if you have a look back, way back in the past, going out to the old Melbourne Speed Bowl and then later to Avalon and a few places, when they were sort of, just letting people drink, and say Calder Park Drags was another one, when they were just letting people drink, and it was great for me. I love a drink, or two or three. But the problem is, it was causing a problem. It was causing big problems. I mean, some of the behaviour, at some of those meetings very late at night, especially at the drags after several oil downs or something, it did get very feral out there for a while. It was really good. It's a lot more comfortable. You wouldn't have taken your family out to some of those places in the past, whereas now you can go to places like Nyora and Avalon, and all those places. And some of them, they've got an area where you can grab a drink if you want a drink, but it's not just open slather where you can just bring in and get yourself absolutely, off your face and cause trouble. So I would hope that they would just leave things as it is, because Noah's is a fun place. So
I think it was just more. It was
remember
more
the hill
related.
McPhillamy at Bathurst all those years ago? How wild that was.
Oh God, yeah, that was feral. I mean, and that was dangerous, and it was just
you drive your car up there and don't expect to come back in it. That's what it was most of the time. So.
It was safer to drive your car around the track.
Yeah, as Paul said, Avalon's got a dedicated smoking area, or dedicated smoking areas, and booze can only be consumed in the bar area, which is fair enough. You want a drink, you go there, you can go into the bar area, you have a drink, and you come back out again. I don't have a problem like that. I don't know about, I can do without a drink. I'm going there to watch the racing. I would like a drink. It's nice to have a drink. When you're out there, but if it wasn't there, I'm not going to say, well, I'm not going because I can't get a drink. And I'm certainly, if you can't do without a cigarette for 4 or 5 hours, you're in a pretty bad state.
We usually try and get a nightcap in somewhere, Brett, but we don't do it until we've actually finished, until we're clear, don't we? Every now and again, we only grab one on the way home. And it's usually just one cheers to the day. And Richard's there, it usually turns into about 7. But and that's no exaggeration. That's being conservative. However, but we did a lot of filming that day at Richard's, so we deserved a few more. However,
that's why they're having sniffer dogs.
Roy pointing out.
Mate, I don't know.
You get on the show for 1 week, and all you do is just cause trouble and have gags and laughs and carrying on and. You start us all, Mr. Richards out, Mr. Houchen. You just
Roy pointing out that at Perth they only sell mid-strengths, but a lot of places. I mean, it's the same with the cricket and the football now. It's a bit of a pain. I mean, because if you're somebody who likes a proper beer, or you want especially like I'm not a beer drinker. I like my wine and my spirits, and if you go to some of these places and you can't get like you just want a scotch. You say, look, I just want a scotch with my pie or something. You can't get it. It's like you might be able to get a premix or something. But anyway, that's
the bathroom gets more of a workout than all because it just goes straight through the mid or low strength.
As Paul's saying, the McPhillamy Park flag point was interesting to work at. Yeah, I can imagine.
The general public used to probably walk across the track and pass it to you, then walk back over the other side where a camera wasn't back then, I'm betting. Yeah. Right in the middle of the race.
It.
There you go.
That's it, yeah. And unfortunately, well, Box, you're right. I mean, unlimited access to alcohol in the great Australian public equals general chaos. And that's it. That it ruins it for all of us who really do want it. I mean, it's really crook. I mean, you go down to the beach during the summer, and it's like you go there and you get there's like the picnic area, and you want to sort of have a barbecue or something. You can't take a bottle of wine or take a couple of stubbies with you and just have a drink because like it's virtually banned. You can't drink in open anywhere nowadays.
So you only have to mention one suburb down there. It's been in the news the last 2 or 3 years before COVID as well. St Kilda. Look at what all the people used to do when they come rock up there, completely out of the blue, throw their own rave party, or so to speak, or put a DJ on with some music on a boombox. And the police would be eradicating everyone 2 or 3 hours later, and the council would be on the news the following night because the whole area, grass, and the rubbish would be just trashed. So it's, unfortunately, alcohol out of control, is the old saying.
Anyway, let's move on to matters on track. Doc, I sent you the FIM Grand Prix Commission got together, and they've made a couple of not earth-shattering announcements in regard to MotoGP before we get on to the race itself on the weekend. Did you get a chance to have a look at that document, see what they're doing?
I had a peruse over the Federation International Motorcycle, which they pronounce themselves as, and probably like yourself, there was 2 or 3 points. Let's go to the highlight, just a little paraphrase at the end. So in 2021, the Grand Prix they announced, which was the best Grand Prix of the year, was Valencia last year. So congratulations.
Of course, I mean, there's plenty of opportunities for it to be a Spanish race. It was always going to be a Spanish race. Anything to do with Dorna, it's going to be a Spanish race.
So we'll start lightheartedly. You probably run your eyes over as well too. They just briefly went into the testing days and times and how about you can go with it. So they're giving a one-day test only after the end of the season race at that particular venue. Then they've got 3 days here and 2 days there and so forth. There's some preconditions through winter, what bikes you can use, the old ones, new ones, etc. So they're just tweaking a few of the rules on testing as well, though, too. But I think the biggest highlight of the statement was on page 2 as well, is the introduction of the biofuels. It has to have a minimum of 40%, Brett, correct? Am I there? By 2023?
Yeah, I'm surprised that it's that low, actually, because when you consider sort of, the cars are running E80 and all that sort of thing, and then in some of the categories now they're running 100% biofuel. I'm really surprised that it's going to be that low. They said ultimately the long-term goal is that it will be sort of, that biofuel and synthetic fuel will be the way they're going to go. But I was surprised when they said that it was going to be only 40%, because I would have thought they could have got a bit higher than that.
Yep. So just going over the brief, I have read it all. As you know, I've been going freeloading for a second. And it has to be increased to 100% for the 2027 season. So that gives all the teams, the factory teams, the satellite teams, everyone else. I'm not sure if it'll apply to the subcategories like Moto2 and Moto3, but I'm sure there will be conditions and there'll be outlays in the future and announcements on how it will transition down to the lower categories. Because if you remember, Moto2 and Moto3 sometimes run to a certain specification where they have to have a controlled engine or a controlled chassis. There's a lot more restrictions on development they can do. That's why it's not the Premier class. But yeah, 2027, 100% biofuel. So that gives the team something to, really pin the tail on the donkey by 2027. So
And of course, last weekend we said the circus rolled into to Portugal. I mean, did you have a look? I must admit, all I've seen from MotoGP on the weekend was Jack Miller's crash. That's the only thing I've caught up with.
Yeah, I won't go over the whole rigmarole because it was a pretty classy effort. I won't say it was a demolition or a complete gang bang smash all the way through. But Quartararo, very consistent race, very smart race. Put himself up there and positioned himself well in qualifying, and then was able to take off Zarco off his perch in the first couple of laps, and then just drifted out and kept maintaining a comfortable lead by about 4 or 5 seconds towards the end. So and you and I were discussing this on Tuesday night when we were doing the In Pit Lane show in the studio, because we're having a laugh with Pete about the Ricciardo incident and of course Jack Miller. So Jack, I think it was about a few laps to go, maybe about 5 or 7 laps to go, I think. Just his ambition was there. The bike was possibly able to do it, but he just went the undercut under Mir on a sharper corner and dropped it in front of him, and basically did the old, if you were playing cricket, the old sweep shot, and took Joan Mir out with him in the Suzuki. And look, they've had some trying times in the last 2 years. There's been some ugly incidents. I'm sure if you look up YouTube or look at, just Google Jack Miller and Joan Mir, you'll see that there's been a bit of argy-bargy on the track and off the track and a lot of animosity. But I think Jack was quite hurt during the crash. He didn't get up straight away. He was on the old MotoGP haunches, where you're on your hands and your knees and you're feeling the pain and hoping those airbags just let you get some breaths in a few seconds. But Joanne went straight across to him, put his hand on him, and made sure he was okay and he was all right, which was pretty classy by him. That was fantastic. And and Jack's put up his hand and fully regrets and said, it's completely my fault. I'm sorry about that. But didn't incur a penalty, so it was deemed a racing incident. So there will not be any grid spots or seconds wiped off his time.
The interesting thing was that, like afterwards, Jack said he's now feeling, he's getting into the rhythm of that bike again. He's feeling a lot more comfortable on it now. He said it's starting to gel, and he's feeling more comfortable than he was at the start of the year with the current bike, and it's starting to reflect in better performances, because it seems that he's constantly under some sort of pressure for one reason or another. So.
And a quick punchline, Marquez has had a quick battle towards the end as well too. I don't know if anyone else has seen any highlights. So Marc Marquez was on his Repsol Hondo, and his brother was on the Aprilia, and they had a bit of fun and games at the end. It was all clean and as a whistle and good fun. So good to the Aprilias are competitive this year. Espargaro unfortunately went out early as well though too on the other Repsol Honda. So Crash went early in the race, only a few laps in I think. So. Yeah, the season's up in the air, and everyone criticising Jack that he may have to drop back to the satellite team next year. Well, if he can stay on the bike, he'd be a country mile ahead of the other three. Zarco performed quite well on the weekend. Like I said, he got a podium out of it as well. But he's outstripped Bagnaia at the moment, and he was the bee's knees in the last year and the start of this year, and he just can't seem to find his feet on the bike at the moment. So. Anyway, that's your MotoGP wrap up for the week in a short spell.
Yes, and Supercars, of course, returning to action. They're over in they've made the long trip across the Nullarbor, and they're over in Western Australia at the moment for night races. Interesting that a lot of the drivers, and they're playing up the fact that because it's a nice night race, and they think it'll be pretty cool over there for night time. They're saying they're running, the whole meeting is just run on super soft tyres, and they're saying that's so they're interested that no one really is sure at this stage in terms of how they're going to play out the strategy, how long these tyres are going to last at their maximum level of adhesion, on how long before they start going to pieces, whether they've got they end up having any real problems there. So that's fairly uncertain as to what's happening with that. But that'll be under lights at Wanneroo, or Barbagallo as it's called now. They will probably... it'll be spectacular. I don't think it's on free to air. There are highlights on free to air, but if you've got Mr. Murdoch's one of Mr. Murdoch's services, then you can probably watch it there, and I'm sure it'll be very entertaining. We'll probably talk a bit about it next week
Those
on
super
both
soft-
In Pit Lanes News
those-
and here on Full Course Yellow as well.
Those super softs, would you imagine there'd be a lot of diving going on, possibly? If someone's on used tyres and someone's on some fresh sets? I'm not sure. What's the sequence of events? Is there 2 races, 3 races, 4 races? How many Ks are there?
There's one race on the Saturday night.
Yep.
And then 2 races during the day on Sunday.
So it'll come back down to whoever banks some sets on qualifying tyres as well, though, too, and then it'll be track position and let's dive.
And then, of course, how warm it turns out. I mean, because as we've seen even here just recently, the tail of summer comes back. I mean, I got a real surprise when I walked out the other day and it was about 25 degrees. It's like, well, where did this hit all of a sudden? It was a lovely day, and of course, Perth it can heat up pretty quickly there. So it's probably not going to be 30 or 35 degrees or anything, but if it gets into the mid to high 20s after a weekend of racing on the super soft tyres on that very abrasive, very very abrasive surface that they've got over there at Barbagallo, it could make for some very interesting racing, and it could open up the possibility of perhaps a surprise or two in terms of who comes away with the victories over the weekend. So we'll have a look at that coming up on the weekend, but always it's a good track, Barbagallo. It's lots of. You've been out, Richard. You've been out there, haven't you? You went out there when they ran the NASCAR guys out there with Eddie, didn't you?
Unmute, Richard.
You're still muted, Richard.
Well, yeah, I have. I went out there with Eddie, and we actually won that race. It was,
what did you think of the track?
It's tight. It's smallish. It's got a nice long straight.
Is it forgiving?
I don't think it certainly doesn't rank with the Island or even Sandown, I don't think. My opinion. It's more Winton-ish, in a way. The facilities are...
I can see that.
The facilities were, they've improved them. They'd want to. But it's a nice place, You can't see the back half no matter where you stand. You basically can't see the back half of the track. But, when you win, it's always good.
Yes, yes, of course. And you've got plenty of time to contemplate as you make the long drive back to the eastern seaboard. But anyway, so that's happening on the weekend. Just quickly, Super GT is back in action on there, and thankfully they're putting the races up fairly quickly. If you want to watch it live, you have to have a subscription to motorsport.tv, which I wouldn't be too keen on. But if you wanted to do that, that's fine. But you can. They had the full races up within a couple of days, and they've got the new Nissans, and they look fantastic. Now Nissan have said that they're going to actually test now. Once seeing the COVID thing is sort of being slowly but surely lifted everywhere, they're going to bring in some of their Formula E drivers and put them into the Super GT cars and give them a bit of a test there. So we could see some new sort of European names popping into action in Super GT, which would be a good injection of new talent into that series. The cars are amazing. When I saw the Super GT, probably about 5 or 6 years, probably longer now. I forget the exact date, but I went over and saw them in action at Sepang in Malaysia, and they were just blisteringly fast. They're just there was a short period of time in the early days of supercars where people like Auto Action and all that were flagging the idea of having a match race between supercars in Australia and the DTM cars, until Mark Scaife went over to Germany and saw them and went, no, that's a really bad idea. I think he said at Bathurst they'd lap us within about 6 laps. So let's not do that.
Just another thing we haven't mentioned tonight as well too. I'm not sure if you put it in the news last week, Brett, because you're for the show. The Chastain won Talladega, but he did it from third place in the last lap with Kyle Larson tried to take a pass on Eric Jones and open the door for Chastain. I'll have to look at that to highlight and have a look at that when the dust settles from the carnage.
That's the other thing too. If you like your NASCAR are also very quick in getting full races up. So are IndyCar for that matter. The Americans are really good. And if you want to see anything, I don't know whether Talladega's up yet, but they usually within a week. Or 4 or 5 days, they've usually got the full race up on their YouTube channel. And the thing that NASCAR do, and it's a bit of a bugbear for me because they send out the news releases now in full 4K and at a high frame rate at 60 frames a second. But it looks $1 million. If you've got a good television, if you've got a 4K television and a high refresh rate on your TV screen, it looks $1 million. It looks fantastic.
Well, with inflation at 5.1 now, if you haven't got one, it might cost a pretty penny from there this point onwards.
We'll just wrap this up. We'll just quickly with the last bit of news. Motorsport Australia announced late this afternoon that they've signed a commercial deal with the owners of the TCR category to keep the Australian rights to TCR going until 2028. So they're showing faith in that category. We certainly saw a really good field up at Bathurst, and so it is slowly but surely sort of gathering momentum here. I mean, it's going to be a hard sell because you put them. I mean, it's true. You put them up alongside of it's not just the supercars, but you put them up against Trans Am and sports sedans and things with 650, 700, even in the case of sports sedans, some of those they're putting out over 800 horsepower now. It's very hard for the TCR cars to really shine, but they tend to put on some good racing, and certainly they've got plenty of manufacturer involvement. So that's really good. I'll just put up
one more quick thing. Congratulations to Joey Morrison because he got his super license during the week as well too. To the recent changes by you just remind me, Motorsport Australia made some tweaks to the license requirements last month, and Joey Morrison now can run some Super 2s and some GTs and even run in a supercar if he gets a random drive. So congratulations to him and anyone else who takes advantage of that in the future.
And he's certainly a very talented driver.
That's the reigning Gold Star.
Yeah. Apart from being Gold Star champion, he had a fairly successful tilt at things overseas as well. So
beat Mick Schumacher back in 2016 in his championship.
Yep. So he's got a good pedigree there, and he should be good there. So as Paul said, round 3 of the Pro Motocross Series happening at Wodonga on the weekend up at Wodonga, up Albury Way, up on the border. So that'll be nice if you want to go up there. If you're up there, you might take a run down to Wangaratta on Saturday night. The Speedway, Wangaratta Speedway is in action on Saturday night, and I think it might be the Speed Car Grand Prix is happening there, or the Victorian State title. I know there is a big race coming up at Wangaratta Speedway this week.
Well, after you go get your dong out, get your wang out there. Yeah, exactly.
There you go, and so you can have fun. Wangaratta. So it's an interesting town. It goes off very late at night. It really goes off. Richard's been there when it has gone off. Okay, and also also some more two-wheel news. Paul's just put up there that the Australian Superbike round that was scheduled for the Bend in December has been moved a week earlier because the Adelaide 500, which they're still saying will happen, has taken that date. So so I imagine another reason that Sam Shaheen won't be. So speaking of Sam though, Sam, when the guys just quickly were in action at Mallala on the weekend, unfortunately couldn't make it down there. But I believe that they did eventually get a local crew out there to do some video. So hopefully that'll be up on someone's YouTube channel fairly soon. Unfortunately, a week they couldn't find the budget for us to go across. So, but apparently somebody local has jumped in and done that. So that'll be coming up, and it looked like a really good field of sports sedans. The good news is coming up in August at Winton, the festival, the Winton Festival of Speed in August. The historic sports sedans will be up at Winton, running there, and that should be a good turnout up there at Winton. So, and coming up this weekend, it's not a public thing, but one of the reasons I'm flat out at the moment is this weekend celebrates 50 years of the Australian Sportsman Association Victoria branch. You've got a big dinner coming up here on Saturday night, and I'm flat out at the moment putting together their AV stuff for that particular dinner on Saturday night. So I'm flat out at the moment, and it's for that reason that we're going to call an end to proceedings. So thanks everybody for
Thank you.
for coming along. We'll just say to Bernice, I have unfortunately my Spanish is very, very limited, Bernice, but whatever you're saying, thank you for it. It's probably something absolutely filthy, but who knows? But anyway, that's thank you to Bernice Bonaire. So thank you to Bernice. And also thank you to thanks Russell. Good night to Russell Clark. Good night to Box. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, mate. We really appreciate it. And Russell saying, "Settle down, Doc." And Mad Cow Mark,
local country towns,
also saying bye and having a great weekend. And we pass on those wishes to you as well. So until we see you next week. Now, I'll just tell you, In Pit Lane, this Tuesday night on In Pit Lane, our special guest, we're talking speedway racing and a young Australian driver, young Victorian driver by the name of Todd Hobson. He's going across in a couple of weeks' time to race wingless sprint cars in Indiana. It's a really great story. He's a really nice guy. And as I said on the show, and you'll see it on there, in terms of his professionalism, in terms of what he presented to us with his background and all the things, it was as professional a package as I've ever seen in the time I've been doing this show. It was very impressive, and so he could go a long way if he backs it up. If his driving turns out to be as good as his general presentation and his media performance, he's someone to watch out for. So
just like now, Brett, we ran out of time, didn't we? We could have asked him a heap more stuff.
Yeah, that's it. Unfortunately, our band couldn't get in. In fact, a few people couldn't get in, but our band couldn't get in because in the late afternoon, one of the lead singer caught COVID. So that was the end of the band for that night. So we had to sort of stretch a bit, and he was a terrific guest. Also, this week is as I sort of remembered at the last minute. This week does mark officially the 26th anniversary, the 26th birthday of In Pit Lane. So for what it's worth, that's what's coming up this Tuesday night, 8 o'clock on Channel 31. We've got about 4 programs left. We finish at the end of May, and then we'll take a break. And what happens after that, as per usual, is still up in the air because politics. Okay, so we'll see you, but they can't stop us doing this. Well, they can, but
there's an election.
Yeah,
it's in politics. Yeah.
Okay, so see you, Andrew. See you, Tony. See you, Chris. See you, Richard. See you, Pete. See you, Doc. And we'll see you next week on Full Course Yellow. Thanks for joining us. Until next week, bye for now.